Mhm.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Female Bodybuilding Girls in Gear. I'm your host, Tommy Stiles, with me, Shannon Seeley. Today, we are joined by 2023 Miss North America for Bodybuilding, Brittani Parish. Brittani, welcome to the show.
Thanks. Happy to be on.
Yeah, how are you?
I'm doing well. Been busy. I like being busy. And just taking it one day at a time. We just bought a house, so we're first time homeowners and just
So
trying to get acclimated, trying to manage 3 children and everything else. So
it's a full order.
You do it
absolutely.
all.
So Brittani won the 2023 North Americans in female bodybuilding. Shannon also won 2023 North Americans for women's physique. So you guys know each other pretty well from what I understand. So I'm going to kind of kick it over to Shannon, let her get this one rolling, and we'll kick it from there.
Okay.
Cool.
It's interesting because Brittani, you did almost like the same timeline as I did, where I think you did North Americans in 2022 as well, right?
Yeah, and we
Yes.
both, I think we placed like around the same placings.
Yes. And you did women's physique at that time as well.
Mhm.
You were women's physique. So I have to tell everyone that knows that I remember seeing Brittani on stage in 2022, and I remember her red suit, and she was massive, but you were ripped, but you were massive. And I was like, she's women's physique. I was like, yeah, no, I'm definitely too small for that category there. But I know now you found your place in bodybuilding. You won
Yes,
the overall.
I wasn't sure my frame, I'm so tall, I'm a little over 5'9", and I
Yeah.
walk around like right now, I think I'm 196 pounds.
Yeah.
I'm a big woman, but I still don't think I've filled out my frame as much as I would like to. So when I went into the first time at North Americans, the coach that I had, which is an entirely different story, we just weren't sure where I would fit. So I decided to do both of them. But if I'm being honest, I don't really like doing that. I really think that everyone should find a division that they enjoy and stick to that one division, because I just feel like crossovers, they're just problematic in ways. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I feel like it gets stressful with the posing, and then for women's bodybuilding, the suit changes, everything like that. So
Yeah, absolutely.
So now you won the overall. What's your plans now for 2024? Are you going to compete this year? I don't know, everyone who follows you, I know you're getting into the roofing business, so that's super exciting. So what's kind of your plans for 2024?
So I am going to spend the rest of 2024 healing and growing.
Okay.
Because I didn't post a whole lot about it, and I've kind of been MIA from social media just because I've had to prioritize my health a lot. I had a abnormal pap smear a couple of weeks before North Americans, and I didn't get the results back from that until about 2 weeks after North Americans, where I found out that I had cervical cancer.
Oh no.
And so I had to go in for kind of an emergency surgery situation, and they removed 2/3 of my cervix where the cells were present. So I had to recover from that, which was about 6 weeks or so. Kind of had some weird problems with that, and I was having a lot of pain, and I wasn't able to do very much. And then as soon as I healed from that, it was maybe 4 weeks later, and I found out that my titanium cage in my spine was broken, and I had a screw trying to come out of my body.
Jeez, girl, you are healing up. My goodness.
So, and that was 10 weeks ago, was my second spinal surgery. So,
And are you training right now with? You're back to training, you're back to how are you feeling? How is everything right now? Like, you had the surgery for your cervical cancer. Is that in remission, or do you still get checkups with that?
As far as I know, when I went back in, there was nothing present anymore. There was no risk of dysplasia or anything like that. And super thankful for that. I think we caught it like incredibly early, which is just something anybody that deals with cancer is excited about,
Yeah.
I was uncomfortable a lot last year, and it had nothing to do with my training. I knew it was a different type of feeling,
Yeah.
and I just didn't know what it was. So I'm glad I took care of it when I did. But
Yeah. No, and I'm really glad that you're bringing that up, because T and I have been talking, we had Emily Schubert on. It's almost like we all feel when something's going on. Like I just got diagnosed with ulcerative colitis. Like there's something off with our body, but it's
Yes.
not training or nutrition related. And it's like, it sucks because you want to push through, but you don't know what's going on. And then
Yeah.
the test results are not overnight. So it's like, what do you
Nope.
do? So
Well,
it
and
seems like,
sometimes you'll find that they're inconclusive, right? So like I have some
yes.
clients that have really unique disorders or diseases such as like Hashimoto's.
Uh,
And I train a lot of women that have, you know, these conditions, and they're very hard to manage because you don't know what it is that's going to cause a flare up. You don't
yeah.
know, like I have another client that has trigeminal, and she gets these horrible, like swollen nodes, I guess, and just a lot of stuff. And you just know that it's not related to anything. It's not the steroids, like everyone likes to say, you know,
Yeah.
it has nothing to do with that. So
Yeah.
With coming back from surgery, is there any restrictions to your training? Either one?
no. So I have a PTA license. I used to practice physical therapy for a few years. So I do my own rehab. I do also have a physical therapist that I am sponsored by, and he helps me. And I'm very blessed that he has helped me through both of my spinal surgeries. So I don't have any restrictions. I just choose not to do certain movements because they don't feel good. And I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
Did your spinal injury, did it like with the screws, was it from your training? Is that, I mean, did something pop out just because of your
So
training?
we really don't know. So when I talked with my neurosurgeon, I'm wondering if it was kind of a mixture of both. Like I'm wondering if maybe it just didn't heal correctly. And then what I was doing was just exacerbating the issue until finally it, in essence, came out of its hooking or whatever. And
Yeah.
yeah. So I don't have a direct answer for that. I think it was multifactorial, you know.
Okay.
Mhm.
Let's dive into this a little bit. Let's talk about a little bit, Brittany. Give us a little brief backstory of like your competing history, because I always like to be interested in like how you got competing, and then when you did your first show.
Mm. Okay, I'm trying to think. So years ago, probably shoot, maybe 11, 12 years ago, a really good friend of mine, her name was Erica. She was getting ready for a bodybuilding show. I had never even honestly, I mean, I knew what bodybuilding was, but it had not crossed my mind. I was a powerlifter. I powerlifted since I was 14. I was all about eating, you know, a fucking like rotisserie chicken before lifting and then like going and getting Waffle House. So that was that was my jam. I was like, I'm big, I'm corn fed. I'm just gonna lift heavy things and call it a day. Um, so she got into it, and I saw her like morph, you know. And now, mind you, this woman is like all of 5'1", so I knew I wasn't ever gonna look like that. But it was just really fascinating watching her decide to do something and have this metamorphosis within, you know, a 6 or 7 month period. And the first show she ever did, she placed top 3. And I was fascinated by that. So I told myself I was going to do it. I knew nothing. I was just going to do it. And I did. So I competed in 2014, and I cannot for the life of me remember what division I was in, but I was teeny tiny. I think I found a stage or a scale shot of when I weighed 147 pounds. I was like, I think that's my left thigh now. No. But yeah, and then I don't know, I got hooked. I really, really enjoyed the suck.
Okay. And at that time too, like, I mean, when you first get into it, like, so how many shows did you end up doing like naturally, like just to kind of ease into this sport until you realized you wanted to take it more? It's like a full time,
3. I think it was 3. And
Okay.
it was spanned across 5 seasons because I had children in between these times. I also had my first marriage in between these times. So I always took rather long time periods between shows.
Okay.
But I think that was actually smart in the end because I had time to really grow and put on size, you know?
Yeah. So then 3 shows in and you were like, hey, this is what I wanna pursue. So then you had to make the commitment of starting to use
Yep.
PED. So how did talk to us a little bit about how that conversation, did you think about it a lot, or was it something you're like, nope, I'm going to do it? Like, talk to us a little bit about that decision making and what you kind of were skeptical
I
of. And
I did not do it the way that I would advocate doing it now.
okay,
I was very young. I was in my early 20s and I was impressionable and I wanted it fast and I wanted it right then, it was that instant gratification. I wanted to expedite everything. And I really wish I would have had somebody kind of slow me down a little bit, because I think that kind of hindered my progress for a little bit. Because I mean, there was one point where I remember getting done with a local show, and I just looked down at my ankles and it looked like I had CHF. My ankles were non-existent. I had cankles, and I just had so much swelling and it was hard to walk, and overly used diuretics, and just there were so many things I did wrong that now I'm so thankful I did them wrong, in a weird way of saying that, because I can make sure that anyone that I help doesn't do that.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
And it wasn't permanent. I don't have anything that did not level itself back out, thankfully.
Yeah.
But I wish, I now tell people to please be autodidactic. When I tell you something, go fact check me, because I am not going to be afraid for you to go. If I'm giving you misinformation, or if there's something that maybe is updated that I'm not aware of, tell me so that I can know for myself and for anyone that I work with.
Yeah. So you had the swelling, was there any other, nowadays we hear about all the harsh side effects of virilization. I mean, is there anything that, as you experienced and as you started using more, some virilization side effects that you were like, nope, I'm not, I guess I'm asking, do you have boundaries set? Do you have some compounds you're completely off limits with, or have you experienced any side effects more so that it's just kind of scared you away from certain compounds? I mean,
It's not that I'm scared of the compound itself. I'm scared of the person that I was working with at the time overdosaging me on that. You know what I'm saying? I actually respond really well to a minimal amount of PEDs. I think in summation for North Americans, I took, and not even all at once, I think I took around 7 different agents throughout the course of prep.
Okay. Were you doing orals and injectables, or just primarily orals? Okay.
Yes. Orals and injectables.
Okay.
I don't think that I can maintain the size that I have without doing both.
Right. And I feel like for female bodybuilding,
I'm trying to actively get bigger.
Yes. Even when you go from that national level to the pro level, I mean, we see a lot of the bodybuilders taking some good time off to just put on some size, because it's you're a little fish in a big pond again.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm a nobody. When I look at some of the elite bodybuilders right now, I'm actually really happy that I'm taking the rest of 24 off. And I think I'm even going to make sure that I do a summer or fall 25 show, just because I am not going to get on stage if I'm not competitive. That makes no sense to me.
Yeah. Do you for your off season right now, do you cycle off everything, or do you still run, Anavar, certain compounds just to kind of keep your size on?
I cycled off of everything because of the cancer.
Okay.
With the growth hormone that I was taking, I didn't want it to end up multiplying the bad cells. And whenever I got off of that, I just decided to clean my adrenals out and just, get off of everything. And I've actually been off of everything for about 6 months. I just started cycling back on last week.
Okay. T, do you want to elaborate on any of that?
I think, a lot of what you're saying goes in line with what other people have said. I think now there's a lot of information out, so there is the opportunity for people to do it smarter, in terms of for females getting on, not just taking the advice of a coach. That being said, there is a lot of information, so not all information is good information. I think it's important to be your own advocate, but there's just a couple things that I think people need to understand that's part of the game when you do get into taking PEDs. You have to get blood work. Most of the time, that means you're going to have to pay for it out of pocket, because insurance companies and dealing with that, they're not going to give you all the things you want. Right. I know I have a panel that I've created through a company that I just send the link to my clients. I'm able to save them a little bit of money, but at the end of the day, to get your blood work, it's probably going to be somewhere between $200 and $300 to get a full hormone and get a full blood work panel. That's just the ante that you pay to play the game. If you don't have that kind of money, then maybe bodybuilding isn't really for you, or maybe being enhanced isn't for you. And then there's other, screenings you can get into if needed. But I think just making sure that blood work's on point, and then obviously for females especially, but everybody, it's, sourcing, making sure you know where you're getting your things from is legit, knowing what you're taking is what you hope it is. Anavar and Primo are often counterfeited, fake compounds, and those are pretty popular for females to take. So
Yeah.
just do your due diligence, double check. The guy approaching you at the gym telling you he's got the best stuff and so uses it and blah 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 blah. Any salesman's going to try to sell you, so just be smart, use your best judgment. If it sounds too good to be true price wise too, it's probably too good to be true.
Yeah.
But T, I'm glad you brought that up, because that is one thing I will say, and I don't think men don't understand when you're a female in the sport too. And I'll touch briefly because I don't want this to be a huge topic, but like getting sourcing from a female, it's very hard to find quality sources or quality people you trust. Because I don't think a lot of men that are in the industry, especially if you're a newer competitor, don't take women as seriously until we actually have the muscle. So if you're just a newer competitor and you're like really like looking for a good source, or you're looking for even like a good HRT clinic or something like that, like I don't know. I
They
feel
prey
like
on you.
very hard for someone to be like, you're not serious. Like, you don't need, you know what I mean? It's one of those, until we come with jack guns and be like, oh, sure, I'll hook you up. That's one thing that men don't realize. Like, men are fine. You guys all have bros and connections everywhere. Like, it's very hard for females to get somebody that they trust. They're not going to fuck them over, and they're not going to have somebody giving you stuff that's not going to be what they say it is, and it's completely different.
And we're emotional buyers. I mean, everybody buys off of emotion, but I mean, especially so with women. So if you start appealing to that with whatever you're trying to sell us, we're gonna buy in more often than not.
I love that you say they're emotional, because I sent my guy a Christmas card and a tip this year for Christmas.
Yeah,
I was like, thanks for helping me.
Like, it's for real. I got done with the show, and I'm like, cry, snort weird noises on the phone with my coach, and I was like, I need you here. I just want to give you a hug. And I'm not even a very emotional person, so yeah.
Yeah. How do you deal with, because I know, like, I'm a mom, you're a mom. I mean, that's definitely a huge thing that I get asked all the time, is like how we can maintain our health and how we can maintain like basically our femininity, being a good mom, and then kind of juggling that. So how has that been? Because I mean, you have 3 kids. That's a lot.
Yeah, it is. I mean, that's why I have obsessive compulsive disorder, and I think it's advantageous in the sense, or in the, in bodybuilding pursuit, because I'm extremely like regimented and obsessive about like what I'm doing, and I plan everything, and I write stuff down in a folder, and then I set it on my Google Calendar, and then I set alarms that all correspond. And if I don't do that, there's something that I've lived by for quite some time now, and a really good friend of mine who's not a competitor, but just a really good person, he said, failure to prepare is preparation to fail. And so it's just, I mean, I really think that is one of the main keys, that preparing, time management, and consistency, because, I think y'all agree that even a poorly constructed plan done consistently will yield some sort of good result,
Yeah.
So.
No, I like that quote. That's we talked about that on another podcast, myself and my coach, actually, Dom Cardone. But yeah, I laugh because when I got into bodybuilding, the guy that I worked with just printed a diet off off the computer and gave it to me, and I followed it, and it worked. Was it the most customized thing? No, but for somebody just starting out, it was simplicity, and I think a lot of people like to overcomplicate this. Bodybuilding is very, very, at its core, it's the simplest thing you can do. Eat quality foods, train really hard, get good sleep, drink your water. If you go enhance, do the due diligence there, but it's not rocket science. So the big thing is just consistency and consistency over time to even see the results. So what I guess what are some of the downsides to taking PEDs that you just accept as part of it to you?
Probably the increased in emotional liability or lability. Said the wrong word. Just, I feel like I'm very much in control of them 90% of the time. But as prep gets deeper and deeper and closer to the show, I feel as though I just get a little bit more unhinged. And I'm thankful that I have the partner that I have. My husband is the only person that I don't know what kind of voodoo magic he does to me, but just his embrace, or him just, he knows when I'm on the verge of something or when I'm overstimulated by my children, or he's just my peace. So I've learned that when I get to that point, I've got to communicate to him that I'm feeling that way so that we don't end up arguing over nonsense.
Yeah. I think a good support system is very, very important, especially when you're a mom. I told T, I tell T in another podcast, it's almost like your spouse is that full-time parent at that time, especially when you're in the last 6 to 8 weeks. It's kind of just like, hey, take the kids, like, this is about me. And T and I talked about this, and it's almost like people are like, well, you're a mom, you're selfish. It's like, no, this is for me and my mental. I do this for myself, and for me to be a good mom, or for me to be a good human, like, this is what I need to do for myself. And most people don't understand that. And that's why I love talking to people who are in similar situations, because this is where I feel the most, important for myself. And I need to do this for myself. And if my partner is not going to support me, then he's not the right partner for me. Because this is a lifestyle, especially for women. Like, if you're dating somebody, this is for all the listeners here listening. If you're dating somebody and somebody says that you're selfish, or you're not, you're prioritizing.
Run.
Yes, it's one of those, like, you have to be selfish in this sport to an extent. And somebody, and I will say this to you, if you are dating somebody who's not even familiar with the sport, it's probably not a good thing to just stay together, because this sport is, especially like for someone like you and I, where we're trying to pursue this on a professional level, it's a lot. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of,
it's all of your resources, essentially. During prep, all of me is focused on that. And, as bad as it sounds, a lot of other shit becomes secondary.
Yes.
I will always, please don't take that as I'm not taking care of my children, but I'm not going the extra mile during that time. I am just trying to freaking survive.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm thankful, my 17-year-old has watched me do this for 3/4 of her life. And we just get into this swing of things. Everybody has their role when mom's in prep. Like, everybody knows that, please don't touch the left side of the fridge. That's where my freaking Tupperware food is. And if I come home and it's not there, I'm going to flip my shit. There might be dishes in the sink for a little bit longer than they normally are, or that, I might not sweep and mop as often, but we all band together. And my middle daughter thinks it's the coolest thing in the world, and she wants to do it one day, or she says she does. We'll see. She's not very good with uncomfortable things, but I don't know. I don't have balance. And if anybody says that there's balance in bodybuilding, they're clearly not at the elite level, because there's not balance.
Right.
It's everything. Absolutely. It's all consuming for a period of time. And like you said, if your support system does not understand that, one of two things is going to happen. Either they're going to leave, or you're going to fail.
Yes. 1,000%. And, I know, T, you only have dog children. You don't have real children right now, but I like that it's, that you bring up your kids and they're aware of it, because I've been bodybuilding since before my daughter was born, took some time off, had my daughter. And I think it's funny now, she's 4, and you guys are going to get a kick out of this. She came up to me last week and she goes, "Mama, why are you so fat?" And because this is the first time she's learning about, because she's only remembers me cutting, because she was so young at the time. So she doesn't understand the bulking and the cutting. So I think it's interesting, and it's funny for her to, I'm like, I'm not fat. Like, I'm just in my off season. And my husband's like, Shannon, like, she's only seen you shredded. And then before that, she didn't remember. So it's interesting too, because you see these little things, like these little nuances as moms, and you're like, oh shit, like they experience this also. It's interesting to
Mm-hmm.
see that. And I know I told T this before, is like, even though I'm a mom, like I don't teach my daughter to eat like me. I don't want her to eat like me.
No,
Like
no,
it's not something that I advocate for children to eat like a bodybuilder,
no.
unless your kid wants to, but you know,
Yeah, but that's a whole other discussion, you know.
yeah.
Um, yeah, and you know, speaking to the point of like your kids watching you and things like that, I will be openly honest that one of the things that I struggle with the most around my children is positive self-talk.
Mhm.
Because like right now, I don't feel like I even look like a bodybuilder. I've lost quite a bit of size from 6.5 months of being virtually sedentary. You
Yeah.
know, I just don't feel like myself. I'm not comfortable in my skin, and I notice a lot more negative self-talk. And I've literally apologized to Eliana, my middle daughter, because she will get very, very upset if she hears me talk about myself negatively. You know, and I don't want her to hear that because I grew up not at all. I'm not trying to dog my mom, but I just grew up listening to her constantly say, "Oh, I'm just too fat to wear this," or you know, "This doesn't look good because my muffin top," or I remember I bought a pair of American Eagle jeans and I put them on, and she goes, "Honey, you don't want to wear that because your fat's hanging over." And it's just
Yeah.
little things like that. You don't realize the impact that they have on you until you get into your teen years and your early 20s and you're comparing yourself. And we all know that comparison is a thief of joy. So
Do
um,
you feel like, I know because we talk about this without, I mean, every female that we have on struggles a little bit. I mean, we all have body dysmorphia. We all struggle with the off season and on season looks. How do you go about, especially because like we're supposed to be getting bigger and thicker and putting on size in our off seasons?
mhm.
How have you handled that? You know, with these transitions, especially obviously like as you progress in the sport, your off seasons are a little bit leaner. But how do you handle that, and how do you do mentally from, you know, going from off season to on season?
uh, my off seasons before working with my current coach, Brandon Ray, um, they were a shit show for lack of a better way of saying it. I didn't really have any structure in off season. So there would be not every time, especially not here in the last like 3 years or so, but prior to that, I would rebound and gain like anywhere between 25 and 40 pounds, you know?
Okay.
And that's just not good. Like I realized that we are trying to put on size, but I was putting it on far too fast. And a lot of it was just unnecessary fat, you know? Like I've actually maintained a better physique or a better, you know, off season because I haven't really been training until just recently, but I'm not an ungodly weight right now. Like I'm
Mhm.
only about 20 pounds away from what I weighed on stage. I just don't have as much muscle. So my goal is to now pay attention to my macros, gain as much lean tissue as I can while remaining maybe 215 and under.
Okay.
You know,
What
because
is
I can carry 220 pounds on my frame and still look okay.
what does a like a off season, like what for you, like I mean, I know we talk about weight a little bit, but what's the heaviest you've been in your off season that might not have been like the most healthiest?
Well, the heaviest I've ever been was like 250 something pounds.
Okay.
And
Was that when you were
that
pregnant,
wasn't
or was
awesome.
that
I was just fat. But I was just, you know, one of those college moments. Um, but my heaviest off season that I got up to, I want to say I was about 216 or 218.
okay?
And it wasn't terrible, but it was before I made the switch to Brandon, and I just had on a little bit extra that I didn't really need, you know.
Yeah.
You
Um,
said you're 5'9" too, though.
Yes.
Yeah, so you're not like one of these 5'2" girls. You're a
No,
taller.
I'm a freaking Amazon.
Yeah, you're a large human.
yeah.
So it's the weight, weight gain is relative to, when you have a big frame, it's like 216 on you would look a lot different on someone that was 7 inches shorter.
Oh,
Yeah.
100%. And it's funny because, you know, I feel as though, and this is just something that I've noticed, I feel as though a high percentage of female bodybuilders are on the shorter side. You know, I picked a division where generally speaking, most of them are shorter. Same with men's open. You know, most of the men are shorter men.
Mhm.
Um, do I think that's advantageous to me? Not right now. Do I think it will be? When I fill out my frame, I'll be a monster,
Yep.
you know, and it's just going to take time. That's the thing is I feel I'm very happy with where I'm at because I'm not even 34 yet, and I've still got my prime, you know.
No, I think, I mean, because I'm just shy of 5'11", so I understand the taller game and how long it takes. The cool thing about being a taller bodybuilder is, there's really no point of getting like maxed out or like a boxy look if your
Yeah,
torso's not short, because you can just keep adding tissue. It just takes longer to get there, because that frame, especially if you have wider delts, shoulder to shoulder, it's just going to take a long time to fill out.
yeah,
Whereas someone that's shorter may look a lot denser than you way earlier, but that flow might get compromised if they get too boxy or too blocky.
100%.
So it's just a long game. And then I think too, you mentioned age. Someone told me recently, or they commented on one of our videos, that they didn't hit their peak until they were 48 years old. So
Yeah.
when you hear stuff like that, it's like, wow.
Some of the current research that I've at least done in my random downtime is between 36 and 42 is like that's when you've really got that mature, dense muscle packed on. It ain't going anywhere. You're only getting better from there. So
Yeah, muscle tissue
and
takes.
obviously it depends on when you started, the time, that you had training. I realize that's again more variables that we're not really discussing, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts? Because I know when you came into competing, it wasn't in female bodybuilding. What do you think of the female bodybuilding division, since it's come back the last like 4 years? And
I'm ecstatic. I mean, I think that you've got just these grade A freaking muscle mommies out there that just happen to be pretty. I mean, I think there's a lot more feminine energy stepping on stage in women's bodybuilding than there has been in the last 8 years or so.
Mhm.
I mean, what made me fall in love with bodybuilding was like the Corey Iverson physiques,
Yeah.
But looking at that now, that's not big enough for me now. Like I still want to be bigger than that. But I don't, not trying to be vain or anything, but I don't want to lose this. Like I like this.
Right. I do feel too, though, if you look at from bodybuilding 10 years ago to how it is now, the drug protocols have changed. A lot of women are really starting to realize, hey, I want to keep the
Yep.
femininity. And I think that's helped a lot with the way that the protocols, because like
People aren't
look
just
at Drea
pounding
Shaw
stuff.
or like Chelsea. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
they are very feminine still.
Teresa.
Where you look at like 10, 15 years ago, the women were massively jacked, but it was almost borderline like if they didn't put cake on makeup, it was like, okay, is that a guy or girl? And that's the stigma I hate with it, because people still hear bodybuilding, they think of that, and they don't look at the current athletes we have, which are like, no, that's a chick, she's beautiful, she's just jacked,
Yeah, no, 100%. And obviously now beauty is in the eye of the beholder, right? So like I'm not going to criticize anybody for how they want to look. That is your own prerogative. But when I think of female bodybuilding, I think of someone that, has 16, 17, 18-inch arms, but has this angelic face, and walks into a room and you can't help but stare at the woman because she's bigger than your freaking boyfriend. But like you're drawn between like, do I want to go gay for her? Or do I I don't know. Am I scared? Do I what's happening here? As weird as that sounds, like I love having, no one expects me to look the way I do.
Yeah.
And I love that because it's like,
it's empowering. It's so empowering. It really is.
It's like, if you don't like it, fine. Don't look. I'm not here for you.
Yeah. Oh, I love picking my daughter up from school in my tank tops. I'm like,
yeah,
come on, girl, let's go in the car.
And it's fun when people open the door and like I'm, door-to-door sales or whatever. And one, being a contractor, that's a male-dominated industry, which I love. I like coming into places that I don't necessarily belong. And it's just, I like the shock factor. I really do.
Now, how has social media been? Has they been kind? I mean, how do you deal? Obviously, we all get it. How do you get a lot of trolls? Do you get a lot of negative stigma? How are you handling that? How has that been going?
Seasonally.
Okay.
So the trolls will come out as I start posting more when I'm deep in prep.
Yeah.
But otherwise, when I just look, you know, normal and I'm posting more of just like my family and what's going on in my life, I don't have a whole, I'm not on social media that much. I use social media for what I think it should be used for, you know,
Okay.
engagement for bodybuilding, my sponsorships, you know, my different sponsorships, making sure that I'm advocating for them and pushing their business. And then also just sharing like the highlights. I mean, everybody shares the highlights. Like, I don't
Yeah.
want everybody to know every single move I'm making.
Right. No, and that's yeah, I noticed that too. Is more seasonally, like off season we're a little bit softer, a little bit fluffier,
Yeah.
so it's not as bad. But I do, it seems like it is seasonally too, is like when you start getting jacks, like women's stomach should look like that, or women shouldn't.
Oh yeah.
It's the best
You
you
know, my
feel.
favorite
Like you
is your dick's bigger than mine. And I want to say, well, yeah, it is. You got a tiny one. I mean, you got little dick energy like crazy, but
yeah.
Um,
Go on, T.
no, you got it.
So well, that's good that you're not dealing with. So then it's just more of a public. I mean, like, so publicly. I mean, are you in a small town? Do people kind of know who you are, what you do? You know.
yes. So we live in cue the banjos. We live in a town called Godly, Texas, and
Okay.
I love it. You know, I really do. I'm a very social person, but when my social battery goes out, I need to be the F away from people or I become like super bitch. Like I tap out and I'm done. Like I want to be away from everyone. The only people I want to be around is my family. So it is nice to be in an area where I can kind of go and know that like if I want to go out looking ratchet as hell, I'm probably not going to run into somebody I know.
Okay.
Yeah. But
That's nice.
it'd be nice to live in a metropolitan area sometimes just because of like I think I could do more marketing and stuff like that. But I also think it'd be a lot of like social pressure.
It just depends. I mean, I live in metropolitan Phoenix, like I'm in Scottsdale, so it's
Okay.
it's booming. I can hear sirens. It's big city, but um, you know, I think being a bodybuilder and being like you get a lot of comments everywhere you go.
Mhm.
Regardless of season. I mean, if you're just a bigger human, you're gonna draw attention just for being bigger. So which I don't mind. I mean, it's kind of cool. It lets me know that like, you know, I'm doing something right along the way. Because when I started bodybuilding, I was small. So that the whole purpose of all this was to get huge. So one thing I like to, you know, in the female bodybuilding division, especially female bodybuilding and women's physique, is it is a look and there is like a camaraderie amongst competitors. Obviously, you and Shannon are friends. As I think in male bodybuilding, it becomes like an iron brotherhood. Like a lot over the years, you pick up some relationships, especially with social media. You start to understand what other people have gone through. You share a lot of the similar triumphs and struggles that goes into bodybuilding. What are some things you've learned from like other women about, you know, along the bodybuilding journey?
To definitely be an advocate for yourself and to not be afraid to stand up to a coach or you know whatever person or people you're dealing with along your journey. Just make sure that like you stay the course that you want, because when I started, like I told you, I was very impressionable, and I went into divisions that I was told I was going to be good in. Well, I wasn't. I do not belong in figure. I look like a damn drunk deer trying to walk around in heels. Um, I just that's not for me. It wasn't what I wanted. It didn't make me feel sexy. What makes me feel sexy is walking on stage barefoot and then striking a most muscular, or you know, turning around and doing a back double by. Like that was what I felt, like Shannon said, empowered most in. And so I just stopped being a doormat. I stopped being a puppet or, you know, just listening to everybody just because they had accolades or credentials, you know, and I started just kind of forging my own path and deciding that I was going to continue to grow until I could compete in women's bodybuilding and actually, uh, you know, make my legacy there. So.
And I think that's great that you have to I talk about it all the time. You have to set boundaries. You have to set what you want. Similar, like I was told I would never make it in women's physique. I was too small. So it's
Yeah.
one of those things that it's like, I just said, F off, I'm going to do this and just, I don't care what it takes. And it's one of those things that, I mean, we just had Emily Schubert on. She loves women's physique and everyone keeps pushing her to women's bodybuilding. And that's her decision. Like at this end of the day, it's just kind of like, you have to do what's best for you. And unless like the judges literally tell you, hey, you have to go to this division, that's the only
Yep.
person opinion that I would value, is because we're in the sport, is if the judges say something. But other than that, I don't care if my coach suggests it. I don't care unless the judge is literally in black and white. This is what you need to do. It doesn't matter. And I think that's what's great is, even for women's bodybuilding, is there's so many different physiques, even when we see on stage. Like, I mean, like I would hate to be the judge. Like, you see Drea, you see Chelsea Dion, you see Michaela, and they all have beautiful physiques, but they're all entirely different structures.
They're so different, and that's, honestly, I love that though, Shannon, because like, and this is not a dig at bikini. This is not, okay. They all look alike.
Yes.
For the most part, like it is
Yes.
very, very, very difficult for me to look on stage when there's, 20 people in each class and pick a bikini competitor, because they're all beautiful. They all have those little bubbly butts, and they all have like the cute little tiny waists and the big old titties, and what you imagine when you think of a bikini competitor. But like with women's physique and women's bodybuilding, I feel like your structure is uniquely yours, and it's very hard to put 5 to 6 female bodybuilders on stage and pick one that looks the best, because they look the best for their own genetic structure.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like, and we all have our strength. Like, we all have our strengths and weaknesses. Like, I mean, I'm glad you brought that, because like some people have amazing backs, some people have amazing. I mean, there's women that have competed have no abs, but they place all heavy. You know what I mean? And it depends on how you showcase, perform, and build that muscle up. And that is amazing.
Posing.
Yes.
I realized just how critical that was. Again, working with Brandon. And my posing improved dramatically. And then next thing you know, I'm winning everything. So I was like, okay, well, maybe I should have done this 6 years ago. But
isn't it great, especially in the sport, like you learn these little things over time, and like especially as you progress and you want to excel and you want to make this more of like a career-based thing where you want to do this for the long term. You learn the little tricks and you learn what's going to work best for you. And then you yourself become an advocate, because it's almost like these women coming up in the sport aren't sure what to do. T and I just did a huge thing about coaches and like proper coaches and what they should and shouldn't do. It's little stuff like that, because, the big thing, T and I, the reason we do this podcast is because there isn't a female podcast that just talks about all this stuff. And we don't want to scare people away. We want them to embrace themselves and do what they want to do, but just be smart about it and just set boundaries,
Yes. Yeah, just because you start PEDs or you start bodybuilding doesn't mean you're going to end up looking like Andrea Shaw. Like, to work at you, that woman is a freaking goddess. Like, and I realize that, some people do want to look like that, and that's fantastic. We just need to understand that it takes time, and no matter how much you want to have this like magic catalyst, it doesn't exist.
Yeah. And the same thing when we talk about performance-enhancing drugs. They're not magic pills. They're not going to make you buff overnight. That is something
you still have to work.
You still have to work. You still have to make that decision. You want to take it, and then you still have to deal with the long-term side effects if that's something that you want to pursue. So, that's one of the reasons we do this. It's just there's so much misinformation, and it's just like we want to keep growing the sport. We want to keep getting competitors in, but we don't want them to be scared of it.
Yeah, and I think it's great that y'all are doing this as well, because it's one of those things where I'm sure y'all are all familiar with more of our shows being cut out of like major shows, or more of our divisions being cut out of major shows. And I think the more that we do stuff like this, the more that it might gain some traction, and there might be some rebellion against that. Because we're down, I know women's bodybuilding is down to what, 9 shows?
Yeah. T, I was going to get yours. I want to get a man's perspective on this. T, what do you think about this whole thing where there's such limited women's bodybuilding shows, or pulling women for the physique from some shows now? I mean, obviously when bodybuilding started, it was a man's sport, and women started trickling in, and now it is great. We have a great, arena of women competing. I mean, what are your thoughts on it, T? Just,
I think I think the number one thing is it's business.
Mhm.
So as a promoter, they're thinking, how can I put the most money in my pocket while still putting on a good production? So I think that's where deciding which divisions to include or not include. I mean, there's a lot of shows that are held that don't include men's open either. So, you know, it's pretty clear that I would say the most accepted universally is like classic physique, men's physique, bikini, wellness, and everything else kind of getting not pushed to the side, but it's just because of how much muscle is necessary for figure, for women's physique, for female bodybuilding, for men's open, for 212. There's just less of those shows when you look at how many shows there are. But those divisions I mentioned, like men's physique, bikini, those divisions by themselves aren't strong enough to carry the IFBB. No, if you go to like a men's physique and say a bikini show, there's no one there. It's not, and not to like everybody works hard, and I've coached competitors in both divisions, but it's not that exciting. My dad knows nothing about bodybuilding. He's been to all my shows, and I can tell you he would rather watch a men's open pro show than a men's physique pro show. Just the amount, like what's happening on stage is going to be a lot cooler to someone who has no idea what's happening.
We get to have the theatrics, you know, we get to have the stage, the show.
Well, it's just, it's muscle. It's the freak show. People want to see stuff that's not common. A guy in board shorts or a girl in a bikini, while they work very hard and they deserve to be there, and I'm a huge supporter of that, it's just not that, like,
it's not the freak show.
It doesn't move the needle. It doesn't excite people like a freak would. It's not the circus. So that's one aspect, but I think, you know, in terms of like the Arnold not having figure, women's physique, or female open, that happens to be the Arnold stance. That's the choice that they're going to do. They're promoting. But on the flip side, you have the Texas Pro, which is pushing women's prize money higher every year. You have Wings.
Well, you have the Triple O Dynasty now, right?
The Triple O is that's in a few weeks here in Arizona. You have Wings of Strength, which has been a huge female advocate, and, you know, Rising Phoenix every September, which the prize money available there. I mean, Drea's won it multiple years in a row. She's got enough cars for like a 10-car garage now. So the Olympia prize money's higher. I think as a whole, there's a lot more going into female bodybuilding and women's physique in those divisions than there was 5 years ago, since Jake Wood.
That's true.
The scene, but I think it's just going to be like, if the Arnold wants to make their stance, like, hey, these are the divisions we support, then that's just their stance. And that I think the argument about it is just kind of like, while I understand like what Sarah was talking about online when she mentioned that the Arnold is like an icon, and like a lot of people got into bodybuilding because of Arnold. For whatever reason, it just happens to be that their stance as show promoters and as business people is that they don't want that attached to the Arnold Classic. And
and that may not be his personal take on it. That may just be the business side of him taking over.
I don't know if you guys did see with the Arnold Amateur, they did have women's physique at the Arnold Amateur, and only one competitor showed up.
Yes, I saw that.
So that's another thing. And I don't know if there was a miscommunication, but that too was like kind of disheartening. So I'm like, fuck, we're making such a big deal about this, but now there's only one women's physique competitor that showed up. So all that money and all that time to promote one girl who just, I mean, no competition, it's almost embarrassing. At the same time, so I totally get where you're coming from that, because it is a money thing too. You can't waste all this money for one person, this giant production, because it's really not worth putting it into if you're only going to have a handful of competitors. And also, like, from where I'm in Michigan, like, our shows suck for women's physique. There's usually one or two. So for me, it's not an accomplishment if you win a local show when there's only one or two people, you know, where it's better even when you're in a professional level. Like, you want to go to a show and actually know you earned your spot instead of having.
I want to go to a show where I know there's probably going to be people that are better than me there. You know, because it makes me work harder.
You don't, it's just one of those things. You don't want it handed to you. You don't want to, you know, there's a lot of people. What was it for last year? North Americans was supposed to be top 2 for every category, was supposed to go pro. There wasn't enough competitors. They dropped it to 1. And it's one of those things where people are like pissed, but at the same time, it's also like, look at, what was it, USA's or before, like top 2 got pro and there was only 3 girls in one of the categories. So it's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, so I'm like, oh, they got their pro card. And now, I mean, good for them, but it's like there was no competition.
For me, that's almost like giving me my pro card by default, which would be like a backhanded compliment, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And again, this is like my take on things. I'm not saying that's how everyone else feels, but just for me as a competitor, I don't know that that would resonate quite the way it did whenever we won, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
I just think it's going to be a lot more niche when you're talking women's physique and female bodybuilding. If you ask 10 girls what look they liked on stage,
Wellness.
I doubt the majority's picking women's physique. It's just not, you have to be a different female altogether to even appreciate female muscle and want to put that on your own body. Same thing with being a male body. I mean, I could go to the store right now and there's a lot of dudes who have no desire to look like me or do what I do or along bodybuilding lines. It's just, but if you showed them a men's physique guy, they'd be like, oh yeah, that's cool. That's obtainable. I'd want to do that. I think you have to be, you know, you got to be a little off in your head to want to pursue this and make it your life. And, you know, so that's
off my rocker. That's me.
But overall, I think, you know, female bodybuilding and women's physique is in a good spot. I think there's more opportunities for new shows every year where there's, you know, female only shows, the OOO, the Rising Phoenix is huge. I mean, I go to that. It's massive out here.
Yeah, I want to go to that one day.
So, and that's become like the show to do next to the Olympia is you can get an invite to Rising Phoenix. So, if you have an option like that, and then if the Arnold doesn't want to include things, then just the Arnold's out for people. They don't even have to think about it. You know, Rising Phoenix growing, and I'm sure there'll be others. But
yeah, I mean, look at the Detroit Pro is starting a show here in Michigan. Like, there's shows popping up. It's just going to be, you know what, and hopefully we'll see more like women's shows to be like, hey, this is only women's physique and bodybuilding. You know, it'll happen as the sport grows and as more, you know, up and coming pros, you know, have the money to promote their own shows and stuff. I definitely think there's plenty of room. It just takes a great, you know, the advocates to really push it.
And more of this right here between competitors that are actually in the divisions we're talking about. You know what I mean? Because I think it gives more insight than just looking at a picture on Instagram or, you know, reading something, you know.
So you mentioned doing a potentially late 2025 for a pro debut?
I believe so. Obviously under the guidance of Brandon, but I want to say summer to early fall.
Is there a show that you have in mind to start with, to open at?
I don't think I'm going to reveal that until close to showtime.
Yeah, that's how I operate.
Last time I stayed hidden the last like 4 weeks, I didn't post anything. I didn't show anybody anything that was going on because it was my big reveal. And when I did it that way, I really enjoyed it because everybody left me alone the last, like the hardest weeks of prep. And I just nosed down, you know, I'm not chasing clout. I don't have time for that shit. I just really enjoy this, and I want to be the superhero. I mean, I'm fascinated with all things Wonder Woman. That's been my nickname since I was 14 years old, and I would really like to look like her. But like a bigger version.
That's the bodybuilder mentality. It's got to be bigger.
Yep.
Shannon, do you have anything else?
Real briefly right now, what was the feedback that because did you get feedback from North Americans?
I did, yes.
What did they tell you? What was the main thing they wanted to see when you did, you know, when you step on stage next?
Bigger back, shoulders. My arms are fine. Don't really need to work so much my arms, and just conditioning.
Okay.
So, and I knew that I have a very thick waist, and so I'm gonna have to bring my back up width-wise and density to give me that taper they're looking for. My legs, you know, I'm not at all, again, trying to be vain, but I think I have great legs. They could still be more conditioned, you know. Your wheels can always be more conditioned, I feel like. So
is that do you feel like your legs are like your best asset in your body?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know what they are right now, but I'd like to get them to 31.
Damn.
So they were
Yeah,
like
that's great.
29.75 last time. So
They're big. I
I-
mean, good quads, good flow to the front shots. I just looked at your stage picks from the North American. So it's just the same thing with a taller frame. It's just
Yeah.
you just need more
More.
than others, but you know, just keep piling it on at the right rate, and it'll all be there. So I'm definitely excited to watch you know, the rest of the way into your pro debut. So
well, thank you.
we'll have you back on when you're in prep. But do you have anybody you want to plug? Any sponsors? Any? I know you mentioned your coach Brandon Ray.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned Brandon again because he's been a godsend. He's just he's, you know, a one-stop shop. He does my posing, everything. So and I only did one show with him. I only had 12 weeks with him, and we went pro the first time working with him. So he's just a great man. He's a really good man. And then Adrian Cantu is my physiotherapist. He's a wonderful man. He has helped me not die. I mean, I've broken ribs and all kinds of stuff while training. So he'll shake his head at me, but he keeps me in good condition. And then just my family, my husband Mitch. He's my backbone, my best friend, and my kids. I just want to be a positive role model for them, and I want to show them that you can still be a woman and be massive.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, for Brittani Parish, Shannon Seeley, I'm Tommy Stiles. This has been Female Bodybuilding Girls in Gear. Till next time, we're out of here.